If you run an e-commerce store and you've been trying everything to get revenue from Google with no tangible results, I'm about to show you exactly how to outperform 99% of brands in your space. Now, we've used this exact approach I'm about to show you to grow a client's organic revenue by 61% following an audit. And the client I want to talk to you about is the brick tile company. You can see this is our beautiful new website. These are the kind of products that they produce. So the wonderful brick slips that you see in the background, that's one of their products. And we actually increased their first-time buyers, so people coming to the website and purchasing for the first time, by over 30% following an audit within the first 2 months. And organic sales also increased by over 61%. Now this number keeps on going up over time, so we'll definitely need to update this case study. And recently to win Best SEO Campaign at the Northern Digital Awards with another. So in this video, you'll see exactly how to outrank competitors who've been ahead of you for years with a few simple tricks so you can stop being so dependent on paid ads and drive consistent revenue from organic search. Let's get into it. What 99% of e-commerce brands are doing wrong. The single biggest reason most e-commerce brands keep losing to the same competitors on Google is that they're focused on the wrong things when it comes to SEO. They're picking keywords, running audits, and chasing the latest AI SEO tactic, while the foundations underneath are what need to be fixed first. And the foundations are what decide whether any of that work produces results. The way I think about this is through a framework I call DCBAS, which is how I describe the layers of organic growth. D is distribution, which is your site structure and how your brand shows up across the places buyers find you. C is content, which is the quality and relevance of your pages. B is brand, which is where the buyers and search engines can clearly understand who you are and what you sell. A is authority, which is the external trust signals like links, mentions, press, and third-party citations. And S is search strategy, which is the SEO tactics and planning work that most brands jump straight into. Most e-commerce brands spend all their time on the S area, while the 1% that consistently rank ahead of competitors have built every part underneath it first. So we're going to focus on the 4 foundation areas, which are distribution, content, brand, and authority, because that's really where the real difference is between the 99% and the 1%. Distribution. The first foundation that separates the 1% is distribution, and within that, the biggest lever of e-commerce is category depth. When I say category depth, I mean how deep your category and subcategory pages go and how closely they match the specific ways buyers describe what they want. Most e-commerce stores are way too shallow here, with one broad category page, a handful of sub-pages, and then product pages that aren't connected to the rest of the site properly. That means buyers searching for something specific land on a generic page that doesn't really answer what they want, and Google has a hard time figuring out what each part of your site is actually about. But the brands that build out their site properly do it by mirroring how buyers naturally classify what they're shopping for. Now, I'm briefly going to share a real example of a client whose site was set up this way, and I want to show you what the category pages look like and what their buyers were actually searching for and what they were missing out on in terms of capturing organic traffic. So the client is called Manage at Home, and this is the case study that we have for them. So they sell living aids, so daily living aids and mobility related products for the elderly and disabled mainly in terms of their audience. And we were able to increase their sales by 320% 90 days since their Shopify website launch. Now, this was part of a big migration project, and as part of the migration, we restructured the site completely and were able to generate, these kind of results. So this wasn't a one and done kind of project. This happened over a period of time. So I'm just going to show you exactly what they look like. So this is the website, and when we first started working with them, they had really shallow categories. So for example, if I go over to mobility aids, in terms of wheelchairs, wheelchair accessories, they didn't really have this product category depth. Even mobility scooters was just a single page, and mobility scooters is such a large, very competitive category. So as you can imagine, over time, we've had to improve the site hierarchy and create these additional category pages. Now, what this has done is it's allowed us to be more specific around the specific queries that we know our users are looking for. For example, rollators come in many different formats. So you've got 3-wheel walkers or tri-walkers, you've got 4-wheel walkers, you've got lightweight, carbon fiber, 2-in-1 rollators, travel, indoor, heavy duty, so many different types of the same product. And you really want to open up your page content with the same strategy. So yes, you might only serve 10 products, but that could be 20 categories. It's quite interesting how many ways people search for things. And I like to think about this in terms of the website as a customer lens. So think about your customers having different lenses in terms of how they want to view your products. They could view your products this way or that way, so many different ways, but it all connects back up to the main products category. So you've got the main product category, then you've got the subcategories underneath that. So you have to really think about all those different ways and factors that you have to take into account. Buyers don't always search by product type. Sometimes they search by use case, sometimes by environment, sometimes by the problem they're trying to solve. So your site needs to reflect those things. The second example is a wine rack brand. So I'm just going to briefly walk you through the example for this particular brand. Let's say you want wine rack seller, and you can see all the different types of products that kind of show up. So you got the ads there at the top as usual, and then you've got the organic results, Amazon's on the top, and you can see all these different types of products, right? But for this particular brand, their most popular one was actually wine racks under the stairs. I've not worked with this brand for a very long time, but they actually have their images showing up straight away on Google, which is a good sign. And yeah, so they're pretty high up on the ranking. So they're still appearing at the top of Google for this. And I updated this page, years ago. It's been about, I think, over 5 years since I actually worked with this brand. It's the exact same content that we wrote 5 years ago, and it's still ranking. So, for all those AI SEO people out there talking about all the new tactics, listen, this is still holding weight. So yeah, what we decided to do was obviously focus on the imagery, and this is a very good use case for their product, and it's one of their most popular installations. So if you actually search for wine racks as a generic term, maybe as inspiration, if you have quite a visual product, you can just go into Google and go into the images section, and Google's got a really good way of categorizing things just via what people are searching for. So wall mounted, wood, metal, kitchen, modern, cabinet, different designs. These are content ideas that Google is going to give away to you for free. So yeah, really have a look at this, and this doesn't cost anything but time. Luxury, so you can see all the different types of products that could be available for your specific niche. Let's say you do something else. Just as another random example, let's say you sell garden furniture, right? Garden furniture, really popular right now as it's really sunny in the UK. I don't know where you're watching this from, but there's been a lot of good weather. Well, not today, it's been raining. But if you go into images again, Google gives you so many free examples. This is a free tip, so definitely write this one down. Metal, outdoor, 6-seater, weatherproof. If you sell any of these products, you can quickly categorize your website according to how people are searching, because Google's done the research for you. Of course, you can use other third-party tools to validate all these queries, and of course check your sales data and make sure you've got products in stock that can align with the categories that people are searching for. So yeah, just a few tips on how you can do that for your own website. Through conversations with the business, I found out that one of their most popular installation types was understairs wine racks, but there was no dedicated page on the site for that use case. The customers were already telling them what they wanted. The website just didn't have a page built for it, and building out a proper page for that use case wasn't going to show up in any keyword tool because it came from internal sales and product knowledge. By the way, if you want us to take a proper look at your e-commerce site and tell you exactly which of these foundations is holding you back and what to do about it, book a free intro call with us by clicking the first link in the description. But anyway, let's keep going. Content and brand. The next thing the 1% get right is content and brand working together, which means making your brand impossible to mistake for anyone else's. Google and AI tools have to choose which brands to show buyers, and they pick the ones that are clearest about who they are and what they sell. So if your messaging is generic or your positioning isn't clear across your site, you give them no reason to pick you over a competitor. And this all starts in your homepage, because it's no longer just a page for visitors, it's now training data for how AI tools describe you when somebody asks for a recommendation in your category. We've seen this directly with one of our clients, where their brand started getting mentioned in AI search results after we rewrote their homepage to be more specific about who they serve, what makes them different, and the heritage behind the brand. I've even seen ChatGPT quote text we put into a meta description directly back to a user, which tells you exactly how specific this gets. So I'm going to show you the types of products that this client sells and what we were able to do to actually get them appearing for relevant searches and conversational queries. So what they serve is salon products, and let's say you're a salon owner and you want to buy these wholesale. Okay, so there's going to be a few options that pop up, and our client is actually called Salon Serve. So there they are, cited there. You got their competitor sites, and there they are over there. Okay, fantastic. So they say here, excellent choice for stocking up on salon disposables, waxing essentials, couch rolls, and custom white label products in bulk. This is fantastic because these are exactly the types of products that they sell, and we were very specific in terms of the meta title. So they've got a page here that says wholesale bulk buy offers in the UK and professional supplies. We've made sure that we've got consistent messaging across the entire site. So if I go onto that particular page, you can see that they've got that there, so very specific, and we've also got that in the navigation. So of course, AI systems, Google, etc., they rely on the navigation for a lot of e-commerce sites because that tells them what you think is important from a hierarchical perspective. So if you've got really important pages, make sure that they're in the navigation. And also for the homepage, what we've done is ensured that we're very specific around what they do. So a very brief description about the company. If you're an e-com brand and you haven't got this at a basic level on your homepage, definitely try and make sure you add that in. So this is the H1, and then you've got the descriptive text underneath that explains exactly what you do, maybe a bit about your heritage, how long you've been around, why you're trusted, what kind of products you provide, and basically your audience. So they actually serve professionals in their particular market who may be searching for cruelty-free beauty supplies, salon equipment delivered with meticulous care and expertise. You know, this language is really going to help you differentiate yourself from all the other competitors out there in the market. The other thing that matters here is consistency, because AI tools pull information from every single page on your site to figure out what your brand does. That includes your homepage, your about page, your category pages, your product pages, and the metadata behind them. So if those are slightly different things about who you are and what you do, AI tools end up confused about who your brand is, and they're less likely to recommend you confidently. The brands that get this right say the same thing about themselves consistently across every page on their site in language that's clear and specific. Authority. The last foundation the 1% have built is authority, and this is what gives everything else credibility. Authority signals are the things outside your own website that prove your brand is real and worth recommending, like backlinks from credible sites, brand mentions in press, customer reviews, and citations on third-party platforms. Both Google and AI search use these signals heavily to decide which brands to show buyers and which ones to skip over. And this matters even more in AI search than it did in traditional search, because AI search pulls from a much wider range of sources to decide which brands to recommend, and a lot of those sources are third party. In fact, when buyers use AI tools to compare or shortlist brands, the majority of brand mentions in those results come from third party sources, not the brand's own site. So the AI is much more likely to recommend the brand that other people are talking about than the brand only talking about itself, which is why your blog and your product pages alone aren't going to get you into AI shortlists. You also need to be talked about by other websites. Now for e-commerce specifically, there are a few clear ways to build this kind of authority over time. The first is press coverage in trade publications, lifestyle media, or industry roundups, because these get cited heavily by both search engines and AI. The second is supplier and brand partnerships, because they create natural links and mentions between credible sites in your category. And the third is product reviews from real customers on third-party platforms, because they show up in search results and feed directly into how AI describes the strengths and weaknesses of your products. Now, I'm briefly going to give you an example of what I think is the best authority signal that brands should be leveraging when it comes to e-commerce in the age of AI. So when it comes to credibility, the number one thing that every brand should be focusing on is customer reviews, because this is the one thing you can't really fake at scale. I mean, yeah, you can try, but you're going to get caught out by all these, really trusted third-party review platforms such as Trustpilot, Google Reviews, etc. So one of the brands that we worked with was Pass Me Fast, and as soon as you search for the brand, you can see they've got over 1,500 Google reviews. Now, when we started working with them, they actually had 0 Google reviews, and we really struggled to appear for their main search terms, which were intensive driving lessons or intensive driving courses, as well as intensive driving courses plus location. So the reason for this is because anything that's quite localized, you are going to face the battle of being trustworthy for that particular location, and the biggest lever for trust when it comes to anything specific around locations is Google reviews. Like, you know, how trusted are you in terms of your service, etc. And the best way to do that is through a Google review platform. If that's not possible, definitely get onto third-party sites. So you can see there's a number of different sites that appear here quite naturally. So we've not really looked into that in too much detail. And you got Trustpilot there. Now, they had a bit of a reputational issue when it came to reviews. So we've really tried to leverage the existing customer base as much as possible. The reason why they're able to collect so many customer reviews as well is because they invest in paid ads as well as organic in terms of their strategy. And I always tell people, you know, what is the shortcut in terms of organic success? Well, it's definitely paid ads, because guess what? The more customers you get through the door, the more reviews that you can actually collect from those said customers. And then that becomes, you know, your bank of trust in front of anyone who's researching your brand. So, you know, the more money you spend on ads, the more effective that is in terms of acquiring customers, then the bigger brand you're going to create, the more followers you're going to get on social media, etc. as well, just because you're out there in the market. It is a bit of pay to play, and the biggest brands out there invest in ads because they know it's part of the entire marketing strategy for their particular brand to acquire customers. And what makes authority such a powerful advantage is that it's the hardest thing for any brand to fake. Anyone can publish content, anyone can run technical audits, and anyone can buy a tool, but real authority can't be bought. It has to be built up over years through actual relationships, real coverage, and real customers, which is why it makes it so valuable right now when so much of the web is full of AI-generated content. Now, in terms of press coverage, I think the biggest things that really help e-commerce brands is certainly getting placement in those top tier publications. The top publications I'm talking about are the Independent, Guardian, you know, places like that. Of course, you want to try and appear in places like that, but also I would say publications that are closer to your niche. So if you're in the home and lifestyle category, certainly you want to appear on, you know, something that's, I don't know, country home related, or House Beautiful as another example. You know, we've been able to get coverage for the Bricktail company in House Beautiful recently, but they've also been able to get natural coverage in those kind of top tier publications. And how they do that is a very simple strategy where they submit their imagery to platforms that journalists use, because journalists always need images that are high quality and that are unique and that they're able to have the license for, right? So if you're able to submit your images onto these particular platforms, then you're able to be cited by these big publications. That's a really easy win if you've got a very visual product, and that's what the Bricktail company do naturally. Of course, what we are working with them on is trying to get them more of their editorial coverage and more backlinks to their site, but this is also a really clever way in terms of how to gain that coverage. So once you've built out your category pages properly, made your brand impossible to mistake for anyone else's, and have real authority over time, that's when you actually start outranking competitors consistently and reducing your reliance on paid ads. Now, if you're running an e-commerce store and you want clarity on which of these foundations is currently holding back your organic performance, click the first link in the description to book a free intro call with us. We don't chase the latest SEO hacks. We focus on fixing the foundations underneath your site that actually drive rankings and revenue over time. So again, if you want real results, you can book that call by clicking the first link in the description. And if you want to learn more about what's working for SEO right now, then check out this video next.